On this episode, you're going to learn exactly what is working for real estate agents on Instagram and YouTube right now. Not 6 months ago, not 2 years ago, but right now. And here's a little spoiler: it's a lot easier, it takes a lot less time than you think. What is up, guys? Welcome to episode 335 of the Massive Agent Podcast. I am your host, Dustin Brohm, here in Salt Lake City, Utah. Today, we have Jimmy Conover on the show. Jimmy is one of the best real estate marketers that I've seen on the internet. That is a bold statement, but it's also accurate. So I'm going to ask right now, before we even get into the show, you need to go follow Jimmy on Instagram. It's Jimmy Conover Official on Instagram, and we've linked to it in the show notes. And if you're watching on YouTube, it's in the YouTube description. Jimmy Conover Official. And what he's doing right now is super cool. So he's a marketer who just became a real estate agent. He's doing that to show agents that what he's doing and what he's teaching and the way that he's doing it, that it actually works to produce business. Because even though he's done that for other agents, he's helped other agents produce a bunch of business, he wants to show firsthand that he can do it for himself. So he just got his real estate license. So Jimmy's incredible. I believe that you're going to walk away from this episode being more encouraged and having more tactical, specific ideas of what you should do and have an exact game plan of how to move forward than before. This is not something where you're going to walk away thinking, okay, I have to go buy this and get this equipment and do this and do that. In fact, Jimmy's going to tell you the exact opposite. And on his social media, he shows examples of what you can just copy and replicate and duplicate yourself. Not super complicated stuff. And I don't want to give it away, but he's going to tell you about how much time it's going to take you daily to really crush social media in a way that gets you a ton of business. And it's less time than you think. So we're going to get into that here in just a second. Guys, thank you so much for listening to the show. Did I tell you to follow Jimmy yet? I believe I did. Okay, good. Follow Jimmy. Jimmy Conover Official, linked in the show notes and description. Before we get started, BAMX. You need BAMX and you need Keeping Current Matters. Let's start with Keeping Current Matters. Interest rates have been higher, have stayed higher than any of us thought. I mean, especially going into the year, there was all these predictions from experts like from Goldman Sachs and like people whose their job all day, every day. Like these people went to Harvard, they went to business school and all the master's degrees and all this shit, and they spend all day on Wall Street. And they're super connected, and they all thought interest rates would come down. Well, they didn't. They haven't yet, anyways. Inflation has stayed higher than it should have. But what's interesting is Keeping Current Matters has kept agents informed of this, and here's what it means, and here's what you should be teaching your clients, what you should be doing your videos about, what you should be teaching people on social media. Here's how it affects your buyers, your investors, and all of that. And to get these experts in your back pocket that all they do is research and then dumb it down and give you the Cliff's Notes and give you scripts on what to say, is just a few bucks a month. So try out Keeping Current Matters today. Go do the test drive. Yes, the test drive. Go do the test drive of KCM immediately at trykcm.com/BAM. And BAM, by the way, has an incredible community called BAMX. Their BAMX in a box is an incredible tool that agents need. There's a community, there's a referral network, there's all this amazing stuff for literally a few dollars a month. Use code MASSIVE at checkout and get a discount off the annual membership. So go over to nowbam.com, check out BAMX. Make sure you use code MASSIVE at checkout. It's the community that agents who have joined have told me, like, this is one of the best deals in real estate. So get the details over at nowbam.com and check out BAMX. All right, let's bring on my man, Jimmy Conover. I've been following this guy. So the reason why I asked him to be on the show, I was following his content and I'm like, wait, this is good. Like this is really good. And it's simple stuff. Like it's so well done. This is a perfect guide map. No. This is the perfect guide, the perfect roadmap for agents to do social. And like, I'm learning from him personally, if I'm being totally honest. He's reminding me of what to stay focused on. And so I'm like, well, shit, we need to have you on the show. And then when I found out that he's getting his real estate license, and I talked to him about this, and we've even partnered up on, moving forward, we're going to be doing some stuff together. And I'm like, you've got to be on the show to tell the story. So Jimmy Conover on the Massive Agent Podcast, let's do it. All right, guys, I'm here with Jimmy Conover, the content marketer turned real estate agent. Jimmy has some of the best. You're one of the best, like most talented content creators I've seen, and you've been doing content for realtors for so long, and now you've made this transition. So I'm really excited for you to tell your story to agents about what you're doing right now. Jimmy Conover, welcome to the Massive Agent Podcast. How's it going?
Good. Thanks, Dustin, for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, dude, I took notice of the content you do for other realtors, right? And just the quality of it, how well thought out it is. It seems like you're just executing perfectly. I'm curious, how much time do you spend weekly creating content, would you say, or per day? How much time per day do you spend creating the actual content?
Well, it's been it's an interesting journey to get to where I'm currently at, because I come from a video production background where all you do is think about how high quality and how nicely done the edit is. And then as I transitioned into helping real estate agents out with their own content, so it started with a done for you service where I basically run your social media for you, I film your content for you, I come up with the ideas for you. It's a content agency, right? And so going from that to then I transitioned into believing like this actually doesn't work. After years of working with agents, just having an agency come in and do it for you is not what I truly believe as the kind of like when you think of the customer journey, when you think of your ideal customer going through the process of developing know, like, and trust to actually becoming a real client for you. I don't think it's listening to a lot of this real estate type content. I think it's more of the day-to-day and the personal branding side, which does it. So this is a long answer to basically say that the content that I feel like is needed for real estate agents these days on social media takes so much less time than what people are led to believe. Or at least, I mean, there's so many different angles to talk about. You got these content agencies telling you that I'll come into your business and make 30 pieces of content in an hour and a half, but yet that's not going to solve the problem, in my personal opinion. So I guess in my eyes, there's a strategy to how you create content for as an agent on social, for Instagram specifically. And I think it takes anywhere from 20 minutes a day to an hour a day, depending on how truly creative you want to get. Are you just going to be doing text on the screen? Then you might be able to get away with 20 minutes a day. But if you want to do some voiceovers and some community highlights and actually think through, be creative, then obviously that's going to take a little bit more time.
So to talk more about that then, and I think a lot of listeners are going to hopefully feel a lot better, because over the last 2-3 years, it's been like you've got to have these highly edited videos. Like you got to have, text on the screen. You got to have fancy captions like Alex Hormozy and all of this. But it feels like with my content for sure, I've seen others like Alex Hormozy, like Mr. Beast even, that have said they're going to be doing less edits and just more straightforward content, which takes less time. So listeners should be comforted, knowing that this doesn't need to be a 4-hour a day thing to get great, high quality, engaging content out there. So talk more about what you see working right now that agents should be focused on right now.
Yeah. So real quick before we get too deep into it. So are you familiar with a marketer named Dan Henry?
I know that name. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's an internet marketer, just really great with digital marketing in general. And I was listening, he does business roasts, and I was listening to one of his business roasts where he was roasting a content agency. And the guy for the agency was basically saying that he does these high quality edits. And Dan basically said, I don't believe in high quality edits. I believe that you guys have created a Kool-Aid and there's people that are drinking that Kool-Aid and you guys are off on your own platform selling something and someone's buying it and it's fake value. It's not even really what is growing businesses. You guys are just selling something, someone's buying it, they're going off and doing business, and you guys aren't even in the real playing field of like what works as a content, or not even as what works on social media and marketing in general. And so it all starts, to go to your point, it really doesn't matter how it's edited. None of that matters. What matters is that you understand your ideal customer, you understand their pain points, you understand their dream outcomes, you understand the messaging that is required to reach that person, to help them understand that you're at point A, I can help you get to point B. This is how we're going to do it. And how you actually communicate that information doesn't matter. Does it need to be highly edited? Does it need to be just one cut and no captions? Sure. All of it is the right answer, because I mean, you've heard the phrase so many times, if you put a red nose on a pig, it's still a pig, right? Well, you can't have a highly edited piece of content where you're not even, I don't even want to say providing value anymore, because I feel like it's completely overused. But if you're not speaking to one specific person and addressing their pain points and helping them get to their dream outcome, then no fancy Hermosi style edit will matter. So you asked what content works, I believe was the ultimate question. So what I teach is content for real estate agents needs to fall under three buckets, and that is community style events. So whether that's like hiking trails, businesses, summer vacations, whatever it is that people will get out of just living in your area. Then there's text on the screen that builds connection. So that comes from understanding your ideal customer, understanding those pain points so you can speak in the words that they use. So it's kind of like POV, you just moved to this area and now you have, this is your nightly walk or whatever it may be. It's just text on the screen that connects with your ideal customer. And then finally, it's house tour real estate related. So after working with real estate agents for years, only doing the real estate type content, which is like, why do you need a pre-inspection? What are the 3 tips to home buying? Like all these real estate specific topics, we throw that out the door, and now we just focus on getting creative with our house tours and talking about real estate in some way, shape, or form for the purpose of our audience needs to know that we're in real estate and that we're not just influencers, essentially.
Right, right. Which is important. And there's a lot of influencers. Look, and I don't think that's a bad thing as long as you actually know your shit. It's kind of important. So yes, I like what you said. So to do what you're talking about, you really have to know who your ideal client is, right? If you're going to speak to a specific person, you have to know who that person is and identify them. So how do you teach people how to identify their ideal client that they're making the content for specifically?
Well, your ideal client is what it really is like understanding your messaging, and whose messaging do you understand better than your own? So everybody has a story, whether you moved to where you're currently at or whether you grew up there, that's your story. So I always say that, just start with yourself. What is your current story? Why are you currently at? Because we're not just talking about the demographics. We're not just saying, I work with, like, I've literally spoken with agents that say, I work with sellers. And I'm like, that's not a niche. That's not even close to a niche. That's not an ideal customer. What we're really talking about is someone's moving to where you're at, or they're just moving from town to town, whatever it may be. What are the reasons? What are their pain points? What are they trying to get away from? And what are they trying to get towards? Because you need to you need to use those words right back at them. So as an example for myself, I relocated to Boise 4 years ago from Arizona for specific reasons. Like, we were having kids, it was getting hot. Our pool was always 93 degrees. We wanted 4 seasons. We wanted our kids to be outside. Like, those are the psychographics that we're talking about of why someone moves to a place. So then when you start thinking about your own story like that, then you can create content of like as an example, like a video that's done well for me is like, 5 things I don't worry about since moving from Phoenix to Boise. Right. And so that gets people in the mind. And then in your caption, you're talking about the pain points of living in Phoenix, dealing with scorpions, stepping on them barefoot. And I mean, the list goes on. But that is what we're talking about.
Super smart. I mean, give some more examples of identifying exactly why people are moving, right? And then speaking to those things. Like, what are some other examples of that?
Well, it really just depends on To even take it one step further. So I have two kids, they're 2 and 4. So when you say like, oh, I work with families that are relocating, like that's not even enough. Like you want to dig into that because a family with 12 and 14-year-olds are moving for a completely different reason than a family with a newborn and a 2-year-old. They both have different dream outcomes. Maybe someone's looking for a better high school or better sports programs when parents my age are just like looking for a good place that has a park that they can walk their kids. So um it's going as deep down as possible. If you're obviously probably familiar with Russell Brunson, and he talks about really personifying that ideal customer and having a name for them and understanding what they look like, so that way anytime you put out content, he gives an example in one of his books. It was like a perfume, and every time they come up with a new perfume, it's like, well, will Jessica like that new perfume? And they'll say like, oh, I don't think Jessica will like that. Right. And the whole idea is like you make it for one specific person. So all your content you create, you think, is Jessica going to like, is she going to get value out of this content? When I show this view out my back door with my green grass, is Jessica going to say, I like that? Or is she going to say, I want to be in the city? Like when the more you know your ideal customer, the more like all your content will just hit home every single time, because you want your content in the end, when someone watches it, you want the person to feel like this was made for them and not just made for anybody.
Would you say that like to simplify this process of identifying exactly who you're speaking to, it sounds like the best course of action would be just to speak to yourself, right? Like to others who are just like you, that have gone through a similar situation, or in the same boat as you. Is that fair?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And obviously, wherever you're currently at isn't where you're always going to be at, and where you were at in the past isn't where you're currently at. So there's almost like three ideal customers, right? Because so it's all about your messaging. What is going to come through with the most conviction, the most natural? What we're seeing these days with social media, what you're talking about with like getting rid of the highly edited stuff, is getting back to the more authentic feel. So the more that your messaging is just you and your story, and people can relate to that, the more authentic you're going to sound as you communicate.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. So give us some examples of other like video ideas, post ideas, content ideas that are in line with this concept you're talking about, that you're seeing really being effective for agents in connecting with their ideal clients.
So what I teach is okay. So what I teach is your content needs to be very hyper local focus. So everything you do should usually have city and state, or if you just have a city that people know, whether it's Portland or Phoenix, where you don't need the state, then you can do that. So everything is super hyper local focus, and then having your your ideal customer in mind. So if you were to look at any of my content, it would usually have the word family in it, and it would have the word Star, Idaho, Boise, Idaho, Meridian, Idaho, Eagle, Idaho, because I want the people that are watching my content to be someone that I can help service. So I don't want to just be creating content. This is how you buy a new construction house. I would say, this is how you buy a new construction house for your family in Boise, Idaho. And so that way, the person that's watching that is like, it may get less views, but I want the people that are watching to be higher quality views, essentially. So so here's another thing, is that we have a normal day-to-day life, right? So I'm not trying to come up with a system or a strategy that takes away and doesn't fit into what I'm currently doing in my life. So, I have 2 young kids. We're always doing stuff. So I literally just document everything, and that's for the local community stuff. So I'll always basically just document with the idea of like, how do I turn this into like, so we always start with a strong hook. So it'll always be something like this, like, hey, if you have kiddos and you live in the Boise area, then you're going to want to check this out. I'm down here at the blah, 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 blah. And you give over the features and the benefits of where you're currently at. And, be sure to check it out this weekend, or whatever it may be. There's obviously a very strict framework that I stick to, but it's always highlighting what we got going on. Is it the bike parks? Is it this one event going on? Is it this great discovery center for the kids? As the community stuff. But then from the connection standpoint, it's my strategy is really just going through social media and not copying. I saw a post from the broke agent the other day, which was, I think it was from ICE. What was it? Anyways, it was just a dance where in the cartoon, the animals were dancing like each other. And I think the text on the screen was like, realtors know, like realtors on social media, right? You're just Ice Age. Yeah, it was from Ice Age, right? And so what I try to do is I try to emulate what has worked for people in other industries, other niches, and I try to attribute it to what we have going on in social media because it's all marketing. So when I look at something, when I look at a post, I'll read it as like, hey, are you this ideal customer dealing with this pain point and you really want this dream outcome? Then you're going to want to check that blah, 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 or whatever it may be. But it's all marketing. It's not necessarily the exact words that are being said. It's more of like the structure and the framework. Like, how do you take what has worked? When you look at something that has 1 million views or 500,000 views, what I like to look at is when a video has, let's say, 100,000 views to 500,000 views. If they have 100,000 followers, that's not that impressive. If they have 1,000 to 5,000 followers, that's impressive. That's how you know that's a good piece of content. Something worked inside of that. Now break it down by the framework and apply it to your own niche.
So this, I, I think this is worth reiterating and even, wording in multiple ways. So what I've said for so long is like the production value is irrelevant. Like, do people give a shit about the topic? Like, are you creating a piece of content that people actually care about? And so, for example, my friend Will Friedner, he's up in Montana, and he did this video on moving to Montana, and he happened to do it, during COVID, or, right as we were exiting COVID. But like, Montana became one of those hot spots for people relocating to from California and Oregon. Like, people were just flocking to Montana. And with respect, like, Will's not a super charismatic guy, like, kind of a little monotone, a little dry, but the topic was so desired. It was such an in-demand topic, moving to Montana, and people didn't care that he just filmed it on his iPhone, but it has millions of views. He's gotten a ton of business from that video just because he did it at the right time. The topic was right. There's no magic script, so it's not like he had to worry about saying magical words that converted viewers to clients. It's just that the topic was so good for the people that he was trying to reach, and so was the timing. So and you're saying that just in a different way, right?
Yeah, so I forgot you bring me back full circle because I forgot to mention. So I have a video production background, so I have $20,000 worth of camera gear, around me that I can use. But understanding that, okay, I'm actually going to become an agent. I'm going to generate my own leads. I'm not going to do it in a way that other people can't. I'm going to do this in the most simplest way because I need to be able to teach this because in the end, I have a coaching program and I can't tell people, okay, you're going to buy this $400 light and I'm going to teach you all about lighting. We're going to talk about 3-point lighting. I'm going to teach you how to have great sounding audio. Like, no, I can't. I literally have to, if I just have my phone and a $30 microphone, what can I do? Because the more friction that I introduce to an agent, in terms of, hey, do you want to get leads on social media? All you need to do is spend $20,000 on camera gear and you're going to get there. Like, that is too much friction. That's a big no. You want to make this sound, and this is actually a Dan Henry thing. You want this to be so simple. Like, when you're trying to sell, hey, do you want to get leads? All you need is your phone and a microphone, and I'll teach you exactly how in the next hour.
What you're doing is super interesting. Like, this got my attention, and it's why I wanted to have you on the show. So to talk a little bit more about this transition. Like, you're a content marketer. You've been helping agents create content. You have your own version of an agency, but now you just got your real estate license. Talk more about why you felt that was necessary. Like, why take this step to actually become an agent yourself?
You want the full story?
Give it all. Yep.
So I actually have my degree in construction management, spent 8 years in, employed. But I always was trying to do the weekend thing. I was a weekend warrior, going camping, going wakeboarding, doing everything I could on the weekend. And I knew it wasn't what I truly wanted to do. So 2017, I picked up a camera, started a video production company. And finally in 2020, I left that full-time career to go full-time in my video production company. But that's when I had no idea what I was doing. I had no ideal customer. I had no actual function of how I was getting anybody. I didn't know what I was doing. Let's just put it that way. I was working with every business giving them any type of video solving any sort of problem. That's not marketing. That's like how most agents, kind of post on social media for the most part. Throughout my time, I understood that I need to help one specific person solve one specific problem in one specific way. So it took years to kind of narrow that down into, okay, I help real estate agents with social media, but then it was still too broad. Because when I moved in 2020, I did research on YouTube to find out is, where do I want to live? And so I found out about Boise because agents were posting to YouTube. So YouTube was obviously already being utilized by agents, but it wasn't great. I was coming from a video production background. These videos I was watching, I couldn't really even watch because I was so, kind of heavy, big headed, if you will. Like, oh, I'm not going to watch a poorly quality video, Anyways, that's beside the point. So when I did start working with agents, it's like, dude, YouTube's the best for real estate because I used it. I literally, this is where everyone's going to find the information. When you think about any industry in any market, it's said that 3% of the industry is ready to buy right now. And so where is that 3% of buyers looking? Like what the most intentful people they're looking on YouTube. And so that's where I was like, this makes the most sense. You create YouTube content, people are coming and finding it, and they're literally calling you. So I started working with a few agents on YouTube, and I still have a few clients that I do completely done for you content for. I manage their stuff. I do everything. So then I started doing Instagram for real estate as well, but it was just completely flopping. Because in the end, YouTube, you can get done. Like you can do that thing I was saying. You can say, okay, we're going to show up. We're going to film 4 videos in a day. Then we're going to take a month to edit those videos. And then we post those videos once a week. And that's the strategy for the most part. We can do that. We can't do that with Instagram because in my opinion, you got to be showing that dream outcome of being all over the town. I mean, there's just so much more to Instagram, I feel like, than there is to YouTube. Because when people are relocating, it's really just like, what are the pros and cons? What are the best neighborhoods? Show me inside of some houses. It's a little bit less, honestly, less of a strategy. Anyway, so after failing what I would call failing with social media for agents for a while, I had to restructure it. So I basically started doing a bunch of research of like what was working, who are the agents that had the biggest following, that claimed to be getting the most leads. And they had the most ridiculous content I've ever seen, text on the screen. I was like, no way I'm doing text on the screen for my clients that are paying me thousands of dollars. Like my value comes in the camera and the lighting and the microphones. It doesn't come in actually getting leads. And that's a whole nother story on its own. But then when it came down to, okay, well, we need to be filming at this restaurant and we need to be filming over this part in town and that part of town and this part of town and that part of town. Then all of a sudden it started to not make any sense. A done for you model where we got to be all over the place, kind of documenting being just someone living in the area, it doesn't make sense. So that's when the idea of like, maybe most agents can do this on their own. They don't need to hire somebody. And sure as hell, sitting in a studio talking about real estate is not going to get you what you're actually going for. So I wasn't a real estate agent, so I can't talk about, hey, here's how you get leads on Instagram. So what did I do? I'm working with people in YouTube. So I'm going to talk about how to get leads from YouTube on Instagram. But what I found was nobody cared about YouTube. No one gives a shit about YouTube because, in my opinion, of the barrier to entry to get into YouTube in real estate. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of effort. You have to go out and film videos for hours on end and know what to talk about and know how to frame a video and then know how to build out a YouTube channel. And then on top of that, edit it yourself or at least pay for someone to go edit and can be able to communicate with them and then make a thumbnail and then upload it and put it in a script. Like there's just so much more that actually goes into getting that video up. So I found out, there's a saying in marketing where you sell people what they want and you give them what they need. So I was like, well, if nobody wants to talk about YouTube, I'm just going to talk about, I still can't talk about getting leads on Instagram. So I'm just going to start talking about how to kind of be better on Instagram. So optimizing your profile, having a nice profile picture, this literally the basics, right? That was just so second nature to me because I had already built a few brands on social media. So that's what I was talking about. And I started to grow. I started even just the most simplest things, like that real nice motion blur in like a a house tour, right? When you like kind of do a speed ramp and you see that nice motion blur, like doing simple edits like that for free in CapCut on your phone, like just teaching little random stuff like that. And it really started to take off. Started doing profile audits. I started to grow. So then I started just becoming this person that people were coming to. My ideal customer essentially was following me. Okay. Then I launched this, let's call it a boot camp. It was a YouTube for real estate boot camp. And the whole idea was that this was going to be like a low ticket front end lead magnet, if you will, to get to then upsell into the done for you YouTube services. And so when I did that, I had someone locally find me. They reached out to me. They were an agent. When I got in conversation with him, he was just like me. He was a video production background. He became an agent, started a YouTube channel, sells off the leads to agents, and he's with EXP. So he was telling me, like, you understand who your competition is, right? Like the Levi Lassics and the, all these other people doing YouTube for real estate. You understand that what they have over you, right? They have the revenue share that you don't have at all. They're able to give away their program for free to people that just come in under them. And so as they were explaining this to me, they're basically trying to get me on board, right? To create their own silo, right? That's what they're trying to do because they have the coach, they got all the different hotspots, if you will, right? You got the coach, you got the Instagram guy, you got the YouTube guy, you got the cold calling guy, right? You're going to create that silo for people to come in and have all that support. You know what I'm saying? So they were trying to ultimately get me on board. Well, they did get, like, I was all about it at that point. I was like, this makes so much sense. Like, if I'm going to be going the direction of coaching and consulting in terms of YouTube for real estate or even anything for real estate, number one, the people that you're competing against have a way upper hand because they actually have gone through the trenches. They have generated millions of dollars in GCI or whatever, whatever their claim to fame is. And I haven't. So if I'm truly going to go down this path, which I've already claimed to do, I might as well go all in. And that was, I guess that was the real turning point.
Yeah.
So fast forward, it took months to go through the prerequisite, module one, module two, and then it just took months for that to all kind of filter out. I stopped talking to those people and I was still really excited about that direction. And so I just kept going down it. And once you made the move, I found you, reached out to you, and kind of solidified the direction that I was ultimately going to go to.
That's awesome. And I'm so incredibly excited to get to work with you, but I'm also excited to learn from you. Like, you do really, really good shit and you're really good at teaching how to do good shit. And so, like, selfishly, I'm excited to learn from you as well. But it's still it's something that I respect about you. Rather than just being someone who tells people what to do, you now got your real estate license so you can walk the walk, right? You're going to show them, right? So it's not theory anymore. Even though you weren't wrong, like you weren't leading people astray. It's not like you were, teaching them outdated stuff or incorrect stuff, but it just hits different when you yourself are them, right? You have a real estate license. You've participated in transactions. You know what their pain points are, and you become a more attractive coach because of that.
Yeah. No, it's interesting because I actually come from a background where in construction management, I always felt the same way of like, you go through school to do construction management and then you get a degree and you go to the office and you are now like looked down upon from everyone in the field because you've never actually done the thing. And now you're telling people how to do, or at least creating estimates on that thing. And running a video production company was the same thing. Like, you are now telling people, hey, this is how you get leads in your business, but you don't even, like, you create videos. So we're told, like, we're not selling a video, we're selling the results. Like, I get it. But if I haven't built up, let's say, a dentist business before, how can I sit there and say, this is how you get leads for your dentist business? Even if I have gotten the leads, like, it just doesn't have as much conviction. And it's not even just that. There's actually just a better part of life when you have 100% confidence in everything you're doing, because not just because you've studied it, but because you've done it. Like, it's just so much different. And that is something that's just been missing from my life, when in reality, it's like, yes, I can create a great video, but when it comes to actually, I mean, that's one of the biggest reasons of why I'm going down this way, staying one step ahead and talking about what you are achieving, because there's just so much positivity in that, I guess.
And again, I really respect it, because you're trying to be a better, more relatable, more knowledgeable coach and guide, if you will. You didn't have to. Like you didn't have to do this. Like you have a successful business. You didn't have to do this, and I think you're doing it for the right reasons. So I'm curious. I think this would help a lot of people. Why someone like you? Why did you end up choosing Real over EXP? Your personal reasons.
So I didn't know anything, right? What I did know was that I came in through this of the rev share model. So as soon as I came through with that benefit, there was no way I was going to a cloud-based, brick and mortar. Right. So it was either going to be at that point EXP or Real. And I didn't know anything. Obviously, when I hopped on the call with you, I'm like, I'm seeing the messages, I'm seeing the comments of silo is bad. And I'm like, silo's good. Like, I get it. Like, that's a business. Like, I'm over here trying to build my business. People are building a business with inside there. It was when I think the biggest thing was that when you said people are getting stuck, they're not having enough information when they get into the silo and then they can't get out. And that hit hard because I actually have a background of over analyzing everything, like not even going out to dinner until you've done all the research to determine that this is the best restaurant to go. And so when I started my own business, I had to like change the way I was. I had to force myself into understanding that successful people spend half a second making any decision and then they keep moving down the road. And I have literally for the last 2.5 years, just like that's the way I've lived my life. Like, I'll make a decision and I'll learn whether it was a good one or not. I don't need to do the research beforehand. So when you said that, I felt like, am I going to make a bad decision thinking like this is what successful people do? And then end up realizing that I'm in a corner, I'm backed against the wall that I really can't get out of right now. So once I had the conversation with you and then the other guys just kind of stopped communicating with me, it was like, I like that open forum. And I guess to take it one step further, I had been following Sharon for a long time, and he was just a good, when it comes to personal brand, we're always drawn into everybody's business from the personal brand side of things, even though we're probably never ever going to deal with that person. They're just the face of the business, but he's just such a good face for the business that it made me want to be a part of the brand.
Right. Yeah. I love it, man. Like not everyone's going to see it the way you see it. Right. Like, I was at EXP for 6 years. I completely played that game of you have to build your silo, make it super sticky, add a bunch of shiny, great things, coaching programs, and this, that, and the other, to compete with everyone else's, right? And there's only one option. It's like you can choose one sponsor, and once you've chosen that sponsor, like if it ends up not working out, you have to leave the company. Like you're stuck, and you also get alienated from other people's stuff if you're not directly in their downline, and that became a big problem for me, even though I contributed to it over there, unfortunately. And it just felt icky. So once I learned a better way, I took it, and so that's really cool to hear your reasoning for it as well. Dude, mad respect, not just for the quality of content that you do, but why you're doing it. I think it's really awesome, and you are absolutely someone that every real estate agent should follow, because you're just every single day you're just giving examples of what they should do themselves, right? If they just follow you, they're like, oh, I could do my version of that. Oh, cool, Jimmy did this today, I could do my version of that. It's not super complicated. It's just intelligent, and so I love that. So please follow Jimmy if you haven't yet. You absolutely must, for the love of God. And so real quick, Jimmy, before we wrap this up, first off, thanks for your time. Thanks for diving deep with us today. This was really, really good stuff. We'll absolutely have you back. I'd love to have you back maybe 6 months later, to tell what you've learned over your first 6 months as an agent. But let's get into the rapid fire questions, and then we'll let you tell everyone where they can find you, connect with you, follow you, work with you, all that good stuff. So either or questions. You don't need to elaborate unless you want to. We'll blow through those and then keep rolling. Ready to go?
Yeah.
Facebook or Instagram?
Facebook is garbage. It's total trash. It's Instagram.
I mean, especially when you get into, we were talking about this before before we started recording, just how awful the company is to work with to get anything fixed, and everything's broken, right? It's just
I mean, anytime you log on to Facebook and it says this person you don't care about did this thing and this other person you don't care about did this thing, you have 20 notifications and none of them are actually helping you run your business and stay focused. And like everything you need to do for a business, Instagram is trying to make you not do it. So, I mean, sorry, Facebook is trying to make you not do it.
interesting. I can't disagree. The Instagram or TikTok?
Instagram.
Instagram or YouTube?
You know, when it comes to, I think it's all about focus. You got seasons of life. I think right now I'm focused on building out the system for Instagram, and then you get that up and running. And if you can build out the system for YouTube and get that up and running in parallel, YouTube's great for long form. It's not great for building conversation. So when it comes to, you know, it usually takes about 7 hours for someone to build know, like, and trust in you. They're going to build that know, like, and trust faster through YouTube versus 4-second or 90-second videos on Instagram. However, Instagram is great at creating conversations, you know, having the place to DM. So combining it with having a conversation with someone they're not sure about, they have certain pain points and you've made a long form video for it. Now you can link your long form video to it and you're just got a, you know, double barrel shotgun just firing away.
I like that. Books or podcasts?
Podcasts.
Podcast or audiobooks?
Audiobook. So I guess book.
You're an Audible guy?
Yeah, you know, I was not a reader. You couldn't get me to read a book for the life of me. But since having Audible, you know, that's been a life changer.
Absolutely.
Now I read a lot of books.
Right? It's amazing. Going through school, not a reader, not going to do it ever until I found some shit that is interesting. It started with Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That was like the first real book that I read after getting out of high school. Rental property or flipping?
Rental.
Cash flow guy. I like it.
Not trying to create another business.
Right. Burgers or pizza?
Pizza.
New York or LA?
Neither.
So many.
I'm a Northern California guy, so you can't get me near LA.
So many people say that. That's hilarious. Mountains or beach?
Mountains all day.
There you go. Baseball or football?
You know, I'm not a sport guy. I used to be, but you know, when you come to grow businesses, the last thing you need to do is sitting on the couch for 3 hours.
Right. Which, for the record, I did not do yesterday with the PGA Championship. It was more like an hour and a half. So, yeah, I'm a golf nut. Podcasting or vlogging?
I love vlogging. I mean, I love it from the standpoint of what it is. I don't do it all the time, but I love that. It makes more sense.
Awesome. Uber or Lyft?
Uber.
Gary V or Grant Cardone?
Probably, you know, I've gotten value from both of them, but I lean towards Grant Cardone's eccentricism. His over the, you know, they're both over the top, right? You could say they're both on the extreme end. And I would say that Gary V's idea of you need to be posting everything all the time is what I've disagreed with the most. So
interesting. Okay, fair enough. So, Jimmy, what's the best place that agents can connect with you and follow you and work with you and all that good stuff? Where can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Jimmy Conover Official. That is my real estate agent marketing platform where I try to give away all the secrets that I possibly can and sell the implementation, as Hermosi would say.
And do you want them following your local facing account too?
You know what's funny is that when I first started it, I was like, hey, go follow me so I can get my first few hundred followers to get some social proof onto the account so that other people can come. Now, even when you see me talk about it on my marketing account, I won't post. I will not link it because it's like I got enough. So the answer is no, because I do believe that the algorithm, I don't really know the algorithm, but I think it does affect like who follows you, who engages, like that is affecting the algorithm. So I will talk about my results. You'll see it on the marketing page, but I won't say like, I won't link it in my profile or put it in the comments or say, come follow me. Just learn through what I'm doing and I'll tell you about the results I'm getting.
I like it. All right. So they're going to have to get resourceful if they want to find your other account.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it. I love it. And what you're saying, I know is absolutely true on YouTube. Like you don't want a bunch of random people and family members and like you don't want your people who are not your ideal audience watching your YouTube videos because they're going to watch 30 seconds of it, just as courtesy and then bounce, right? It really skews with your numbers. So I imagine that's probably true to a certain extent on social media.
Yeah, social media is a really weird platform, honestly, but that's why we're just trying to leverage. Obviously you have a totally different beast. I was just checking out your content. You have whatever 25, 30,000 followers, and looking at your content, you mainly focus on the high quality, talking head style, provide value, provide real value, I'll say. And that's great, but most people can't do that. Most people aren't providing enough value, have no idea what a hook is, have no idea like about, they don't know any of that. And so what I always focus on, if you're just trying to build out right now, like focus on that 4-second video with a trending audio, with a value packed caption, understand your ideal customer so that your text on the screen is connecting with them and it makes them want to read. So you get more views because the video is looping. Like just stick with that strategy for as long as you can, build up your audience, because once you start talking, people are going to stop listening. People don't want, I truly believe one of the biggest mindset shifts for me was realizing that people don't want to hear me talk. They can read faster than they can listen. And I really believe that we're in a phase of social media right now where people just want to read for the most part. Like people just want to scroll. They want to read the text on the screen. They want to read the caption. They're going to do it while they're sitting on the toilet, while they're sitting in bed. They don't necessarily need a master class from you telling them exactly what they need to do. Sometimes they just want to feel connection. They just want to feel like this person understands them. Make a friend, let's say. And so the more you can focus on your ideal client and text on the screen, then you can get more into, okay, now I'll talk. And it actually goes along with, you've probably heard of like your, what do you call it? The minimum viable product.
Yeah. The MVP.
So, right, it's the least amount of something that you can possibly put together to get it out into the market. And that's why I see my content. It's like we have a content idea. I can either make a 90-second video, which is going to require me to set up my camera and set up my lights, set up my audio, get it into my computer, edit it. Like that's so much more than like, I got that same idea. I'm going to put text on the screen that relates to my ideal customer. If that does well, then I might consider putting it into a 90-second video. And if that does well, then I'll consider that putting that into a YouTube video, but kind of inching your way up to the longer style, or else you're not, watch time's everything. So you might as well know this is a good topic to talk about before you actually put in the time and effort to make something worth watching.
So good. So good. I mean, way to end it with a bomb. That's freaking awesome. Jimmy, thank you so much for being on the show. Really cool watching what you do and how you do it. Really appreciate you sharing with us today.
Thanks for having me. I love it.
Absolutely. If you have not yet, make sure that you go into the show notes, go into the description if you're watching on YouTube, follow Jimmy, his real estate marketing account, and if you can find it, his local real estate agent, local facing account as well that he's just started. He's just building that out to show agents exactly what you should be doing in your area. Here's what's cool. Just do what he's doing for your area, right? He's creating the guide. He's creating the blueprint. Just take his content, take his ideas, take what he's showing you how to do, and do it for your area. So he's in Boise, like do it for Spokane, do it for Gilbert, Arizona, do it for Lexington, Kentucky, do it for freaking Fort Lauderdale, right? Everywhere. Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, even. You could even do it for Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, as you should. So yeah, I cannot speak more highly of Jimmy. He's just an incredible marketer. I really like what he's doing and how he's doing it and why he's doing it. So thank you so much for listening. If you got value from this episode, please share it with another agent, share it with your broker, your team, share it with other agents in your market, share it in your story, whatever you want. But tag me. Happy to reshare it. Happy to give you a shout out for doing so. And I just appreciate you listening. Appreciate you listening. Very, 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 very heartfelt thank you from me to you. We'll see you next week with another episode of the Massive Agent Podcast. And by the way, last week's episode with Sharon Srivatsa is crushing it in the numbers, especially on YouTube. It's going nuts. I've had more feedback from last week's episode with the episode I've had more positive feedback from that episode last week with Sharon than I've had in a year or so. So if you haven't yet heard last week's episode, how to win listings or how to eliminate objections completely from listing presentations, go listen to last week's show with Sharon Srivatsa, the president of Real. It's an absolute banger. See you guys next week.